Everybody. Today we're going to talk about the single most powerful branch in any military anywhere in the world. Now, this is probably going to be a pretty controversial answer on my part, but as you can see, I'm sitting here in my uniform, and you can see the name tape right there. It says U.S. Air Force, and that's your answer, because no other branch, except for the Russians anyway, can literally bring the entire world to an end within half an hour, or move an entire armored division of the U.S. Army across the world within 24 hours. Now, the Air Force itself didn't become an independent branch until September 18th, 1947, in the National Defense Act of that year, signed by President Truman. But first, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning, the very roots of how the Air Force was started. Obviously, it all began with the Wright brothers being the first ones to make a aircraft that flew that was heavier than air rather than balloons. And this happened back on December 17th, 1903 in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Now, the information of their first flights, which they took 4 of them that day, can all be found on the National Park Service website, as the site there in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina has been turned into a national park and a memorial for them, if you will. Even though their first flight was only 120 feet, and we have aircraft that can literally go more than 7,000 miles on a tank of gas now, it was the start of what would be the most powerful force in the world nowadays. Now, of course, it wasn't until 4 years after the Wright brothers' first flight in North Carolina that military aircraft actually became a thing. And the first military aircraft was basically just a modified version of the Wright Flyer, which was called the Wright Model B. There's actually a replica version of it that is flying today that's been brought out in the air shows. I've seen it personally before. Now, this first plane, the Wright Model B, was purchased by the United States Army, and the United States Army established the first Aero Squadron as basically a reconnaissance mission with these planes, and the aeronautical division of the U.S. Army was originally under the Signal Corps, and this was founded in 1907 on August 1st. This was from military.com, and they had a whole timeline of all these events that led up to the creation of the Air Force as its own independent branch. Now, as I was saying before, nowadays the Air Force is the singular most powerful force in the world, and the reason why we have this is the United States Air Force, at least from the report given by the Secretary of the Air Force to Congress for fiscal year 2014, which technically would be 2 years ago, but it was the most recent statistics that were currently available to me. As of then, we had 5,032 aircraft. This includes everything: fighters, bombers, tankers, drones, that sort of thing. And we also have 337,250 men and women in the Air Force to fly these planes, to fix the planes, to guard the planes, which is my job being in security forces. And the biggest thing of, as I mentioned before, how we could possibly end the world in the space of less than half an hour if we needed to, is, well, this is the total for the entire U.S. military, not just the Air Force, but the United States has 6,970 nuclear warheads available to them. And the reason why the Air Force is the most powerful of the branches when it comes to this is because of this thing called the nuclear triad. And this is the 3 methods that nuclear weapons could be delivered: either through submarines launching ballistic missiles, which is the one branch of the triad that the Navy carries, but the Air Force carries the other two, and that's from ground-based intercontinental ballistic missiles that are based all around here in the United States, as well as the heavy strategic bombers that can carry nuclear weapons into enemy territory and use them as well. Well, like I said before, maybe I'm a little biased since I'm in the Air Force, but that is why we are probably the most powerful branch of any military anywhere in the world.